So the diatonic chord progression thing that we talked about is kind of the nice and elegant and fairly easy way, relatively easy way, to figure out if a chord is major or minor. This other way that I'm about to show you is kind of the brute force way, I would think of it as, but it works when we're in a pinch. So in order to do this, let's pull up our piano keyboard. Okay, so let's just look at the major chord first. Okay, and what we need to do is figure out how to, if we're on an A in this case, how do we find a major third above it? And the answer is it's 2 whole steps. It's always going to be 2 whole steps. So if we're on, let's find an A. If we're on an A, here's a whole step to B, right? Because remember, on a whole step, there's got to be a note in between. So whole step and then another whole step because there's a note in between there. That puts us on a C sharp, right? So C sharp is the major third. 2 whole steps, always your key. You can also think about it as 5 half steps if you like, by going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including the first and last note. But 2 whole steps is a little bit easier to think about, I think. Let's find the 5th. What is the 5th? So here's a whole step, here's a whole step, here's a whole step, and here's a half step. So to find the 5th, it's always going to be 3 whole steps plus 1 half step. It's kind of wild, but this is why it's kind of the brute force way to do this. It's better to think about these things in terms of the key and all that stuff. But if you have to, you can always think of a third as 2 whole steps and a 5th as 3 whole steps plus a half step. But don't worry about that 5th for now. We're going to come back to the 5th in the next video. There's an easier way to know the 5th. But you have to know the major and minor third in order to figure it out. So hold on to the 5th for a minute. Let's just talk about thirds. So we can find the major third by 2 whole steps. So let's do it on another one. Let's pick a random key. How about D? Okay, here's D. Let's go 2 whole steps up. Here's E is 1 whole step, and the second whole step is going to be F sharp. And F sharp is, in fact, the major third above D. Okay? So 2 whole steps from any note gets you a major third above it. Now let's talk about minor thirds. The difference between a major and a minor third is just a half step, and a minor third is a half step lower than the major third. So it's just down by 1 half step. So you could think of it as 1.5 whole steps. So let's do D again. So to get to the minor third, we're going to go whole step. So there's a whole step and then a half step. So 1 whole step and 1 half step gets you to the minor third. Okay? So minor third above D is F. Major third above D is F sharp. Okay? So it's just that 1 note difference, and it's only different by 1 note. Isn't that crazy? Let's do one more. So let's do, how about G? Okay, so let's find the minor third above G. It's going to be a whole step and then a half step. B flat. Right? Let's find the major third above G. Whole step, B natural. Right? So that's how you can find the major and minor third when you're in a pinch. Okay? Take any note. If you're trying to find the major third above it and you don't know what key you're in or anything, just count up 2 whole steps and you'll be at the major third above it, no matter what note you start on. It's always true. If you're trying to find the minor third, count up 1 whole step and 1 half step above any note, and you'll be on the minor third above it. Okay? Now, let's talk about fifths, how to find the 5th without, in kind of a different way than counting whole steps. We can actually kind of count thirds to get us to the 5th, and that has to do with how these chords are made in one other aspect. So let's jump to a new video and we'll talk about finding the 5ths.